Have you ever felt the weight of being overlooked, as if the quieter you became, the more the world mistook it for weakness? You watch the loud ones win attention, the impulsive ones claim the stage, and somewhere deep down you wonder, does silence still have power in a world addicted to noise? I used to think strength was about being seen, about proving, defending, asserting. But life and a few hard lessons taught me the opposite. The sharpest mind doesn't rush to speak. The calmest presence often holds the most control. True power doesn't need to shout. It moves unseen, guided by discipline and clarity. The Stoics understood this. Mastery was never about defeating others, but about mastering yourself so completely that chaos bends around your stillness. So the next time the world demands your reaction, what if your silence became your strategy? What if restraint became your greatest weapon? Stay with me, because once you understand how to move quietly, you'll never look at strength the same way again. As we step into the first chapter, picture yourself walking into a room where everyone is talking over one another, each person desperate to be heard, to prove they matter. The air feels heavy with noise, but beneath it there's a rhythm, a hidden language that only the calm can hear. And there you are, silent, still, observing. You're not competing for space, you're collecting truth. Because real power isn't in being the loudest voice in the room, it's in being the one who sees the room clearly. Most people rush to display what they know, terrified of being overlooked. But the Stoic moves differently. He knows that the moment you stop trying to impress, you start to understand. He doesn't seek to dominate conversations. He listens like a strategist reading the battlefield. Every glance, every hesitation, every word left unspoken, those are clues. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If someone can show you you're mistaken, change your opinion." But how can you change if you never stop talking long enough to hear? Silence gives you that space. It becomes your teacher, your armor, and your advantage. Imagine sitting in a meeting where everyone fights to sound brilliant. Ideas clash like swords, egos flare, and beneath the noise, tension grows. But one person doesn't fight for attention. He watches. He notices who interrupts whom, who seeks approval, who hides insecurity behind confidence. And when he finally speaks, his words land like a blade, precise, controlled, impossible to ignore. That's not coincidence, that's clarity born from observation. The quiet mind doesn't cut through noise, it waits until noise destroys itself. Silence isn't weakness, it's weaponry. It strips away the need to prove yourself and replaces it with understanding. When you stop talking to be heard, you begin hearing what others truly mean. You see their fears dressed up as pride, their uncertainty hidden behind laughter, their motives buried in charm. Most people talk to be understood. The Stoic listens to understand reality itself, because in truth, people always reveal themselves. They just don't realize it. Observation isn't passive, it's active awareness. It's the discipline of watching the world without losing your center. It sharpens not only how you see others, but how you see yourself. When you're not busy defending your worth, you begin to notice where you've been blind, where your pride speaks louder than your reason, where your assumptions go untested. Silence turns inward, becoming self-reflection. Picture a sculptor before a block of marble. He doesn't rush. He studies it. He listens to its shape, its flaws, its potential. That's what a Stoic does in every encounter he observes until the truth reveals itself. Then, and only then, he strikes with precision, not noise. Over time, this changes everything. You stop chasing validation. You stop reacting to drama. You start speaking only when silence no longer serves you, and when you do, your words carry weight, not because they're loud, but because they're rare. In a world obsessed with exposure, mystery becomes power. Depth belongs to those who see more than they say. They can't read you, can't use your words against you, can't pull you into their chaos. You become steady, a storm that never needs to announce itself. So learn to watch more than you speak. Let silence become your sight. Because those who master observation don't just survive the noise, they direct it, quietly, patiently, like architects shaping the unseen. Moving into the second chapter, picture a world where everyone is talking about their dreams, their goals, their next big thing. It's a constant storm of noise, a competition of voices desperate to be seen. Yet, in that chaos, the one who moves quietly, who works in silence, becomes unstoppable. His power doesn't come from words, it comes from proof, from motion, from the steady rhythm of someone who no longer needs to convince anyone of anything. Have you ever noticed how the loudest people often achieve the least? They speak of what they will do, they rehearse their greatness before it's real, but the Stoic, he knows better. He doesn't advertise his effort. He doesn't decorate his intention with promises. He simply works, each day, quietly, deliberately, chiseling his craft like a sculptor carving stone. There's no noise, just rhythm, just repetition, just presence. Seneca once said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." And that's the secret most never learn. The world doesn't need your declarations, it needs your demonstration. Words are wind, action is iron. What you do consistently day after day becomes the monument that no speech could ever build. Imagine two people starting a journey. The first announces every goal, every step, every ounce of progress. He shouts to the world what he will become. The second says nothing. He just begins. No cameras, no applause. He wakes early, works hard, learns quietly. Weeks turn into months. And when the results finally appear, the difference is clear. One has noise, the other has results. The quiet one wins, not because he demanded attention, but because he made attention irrelevant. That's the essence of Stoic power, self-sufficiency. You stop working for applause when you realize applause adds nothing to your strength. The Stoic doesn't seek validation. He seeks alignment with his purpose, his craft, his inner code. When you let your actions speak, they tell the world who you are without you having to utter a single word. And those who are truly strong have nothing to prove, they just move. Think of the old craftsman in his workshop. His hands are rough, his back slightly bent from years of labor, but his eyes still hold fire. He doesn't talk about excellence, he builds it, table by table, beam by beam, piece by piece. Each creation whispers of mastery. He never advertises. He doesn't need to. People find him because quality speaks louder than marketing. When asked about his success, he smiles and says, "Good work needs no advertisement." That's Stoicism in motion, humility built from power, not weakness. The moment you stop announcing your plans, you reclaim your energy. Every word you don't say becomes fuel for execution. Every boast you silence becomes a step you actually take. When you work quietly, you protect your focus. You build something solid, something that doesn't depend on opinion or recognition. And here's the truth. People fear quiet consistency. They can't measure it, can't predict it, can't compete with it. The one who keeps showing up silently, improving in private, growing without validation, that person is dangerous because no one sees the storm that made him. At the end of the day, real power doesn't shout. It whispers through evidence. The Stoic builds, refines, endures. His results speak in echoes long after his words are gone. So set your goals in silence, chase them with fire. Let your work be the conversation. While others talk about their path, you'll already be miles ahead on yours. From here, the lesson deepens, because silence in action isn't just about achievement. It's about transformation. Advancing to the third chapter, imagine walking through a world where almost everyone is chained to something. Some are chained to approval, others to validation, others to the desperate need to win. You can see it in their eyes, the constant chase, the quiet panic beneath their smiles. And then there's the rare one who walks differently, still, calm, free, not careless, but untouchable. His power doesn't come from control over others, it comes from freedom from himself. That's the essence of detachment. We've been taught to hold on to everything, to grasp for praise, to chase success, to defend our pride. But the Stoic learns early that the tighter you grip, the more fragile you become. The world bends easily to those who don't depend on it. Seneca said, "He who needs riches least enjoys riches most." The same is true for everything. The less you cling, the more you gain. The less you crave, the stronger you become. Because freedom doesn't come from owning things, it comes from no longer needing them to define you. Think of two warriors before battle. One fights to win, the other fights to stay true. The detached one always walks away stronger. Detachment is not coldness, it's clarity. It's loving fully without needing possession. It's giving your best effort and letting go of the result. It's the ability to stand in the middle of chaos and not be swept away by it. The Stoics called this amor fati, to love fate. Not to merely endure what happens, but to embrace it as if you chose it. Every victory, every loss, every betrayal, welcomed as teachers, because the one who loves fate fears nothing. I once knew a man who lived this truth. A young entrepreneur who built his dream from nothing. He lost it all, money, reputation, friends. And yet, he didn't break. He said to me, "I learned the value of failure the day I stopped calling it that." Some years he succeeded, others he struggled, but through it all he remained even. No anger, no desperation, just purpose. That's what makes a man truly dangerous, the ability to stay calm in both triumph and ruin. You see, detachment doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful. It gives you the strength to move freely, to act with intention, to stand unshaken while others crumble under pressure. When someone insults you, you don't defend your ego. You defend your principles. When praised, you don't inhale it like oxygen. You smile and keep walking. When fate takes something away, you don't beg it to return. You trust that it left for a reason. Every day, remind yourself what truly belongs to you. Your actions, your effort, your character. Everything else, fortune, reputation, the opinions of others, was never yours to control. The Stoics' peace comes from this simple truth. What's outside your power is outside your concern, and when you master that, something changes. The world stops owning you. You become the still point in a spinning wheel, the eye in the storm, because the one who expects nothing fears nothing, and the one who needs nothing cannot be broken. From this stillness comes a new kind of strength, the kind that no longer hides inside, but radiates outward, quietly shaping the world around you. Entering the final chapter, imagine standing in the middle of a storm. The sky tears open, the wind howls, everything around you bends, trees, walls, even people. But there you are, still, grounded, unmoved, The noise doesn't reach you because your roots go deeper than the chaos above. That's what it means to build an unshakable character, to stand in a world that breaks easily and remain whole. Most people bend under pressure. They trade integrity for convenience. They shift loyalties to stay safe. They crumble when life stops applauding them. But the Stoic, he stands like a mountain, silent, immovable, enduring. His strength doesn't come from the absence of pain, but from the discipline that turned pain into power. To outsmart the world without stress isn't about clever tactics or secret strategies. It's about mastering yourself so deeply that your calm becomes rebellion, your silence becomes armor, your consistency becomes revolution. This kind of strength isn't built when life is easy, it's forged when everything falls apart. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Fire tests gold, adversity tests the brave," and he was right. Character doesn't form in comfort, it's shaped in solitude, in loss, in the quiet hours no one sees. When the lights go out, when the world forgets you, when the noise fades, that's when you meet yourself. And if you've built yourself right, you won't need to find strength. You'll already be strong. Building such a character doesn't happen by accident. It's a daily ritual. Reading wisdom instead of gossip, reflecting instead of reacting, writing down your thoughts until your mind becomes honest with itself, choosing patience over pride, virtue over vanity, self-respect over approval. It's holding yourself to a higher standard, not because the world demands it, but because your soul deserves it. The world asks you to be comfortable. The Stoic demands that you become capable. The world rewards appearances. The Stoic rewards substance. I once knew a man who lived this truth. He had lost everything, his business, his health, his friends, yet he never complained. Every morning he rose before dawn. He read philosophy. He wrote his intentions. He worked quietly, treated everyone with respect, even those who betrayed him. When asked how he kept going, he said, "Life trains those it loves. No dramatics, no bitterness, just calm endurance." Over time, even his critics learned to respect him. Not because he sought their admiration, but because character, real character, eventually commands it. A man of unshakable character doesn't need to explain his strength. His presence says everything. His peace makes noise without sound. People look at him and wonder, how is he so calm when the world is burning? They don't realize that calm wasn't given, it was built, one disciplined day at a time. Every act of integrity when no one's watching. Every moment of restraint when anger tempts you. Every decision to do what's right instead of what's easy. These are the bricks in the fortress of your soul. And over time, you stop forcing your strength. It becomes who you are. The truth is, most people chase validation. You must chase virtue, because the man who is steady, who holds his ground, who cannot be bought, manipulated or moved, he wins the long game. The world may mock him, test him, ignore him, but when the dust settles, he's the only one still standing. So, build yourself quietly. Train in private. Strengthen your mind, your morals, your patience. Let others chase attention while you chase excellence. Because the strongest move you can make in a chaotic world is to become unshakable. Not praise, not insult, not victory, not loss. Nothing moves you from who you are, and that, right there, is how silence becomes power, and character becomes destiny. But there comes a point where inner stillness starts to move outward, where silence stops being just a shield and becomes a language, a way of shaping the world without raising your voice. You've learned to see without reacting, to move without noise, to stay calm while others crumble. Now that calm begins to extend beyond you. The strength you built in solitude starts to influence everything it touches. It no longer ends with self-mastery. It begins to craft reality itself. The same quiet that once protected you now becomes direction, measured, deliberate, unstoppable. The next steps aren't about avoiding chaos anymore. They're about walking through it with such clarity that even the noise bends to your rhythm. As we move deeper, imagine a man who has mastered the art of silence, not as retreat, but as power. He walks through crowded rooms without the need to dominate, yet every eye finds him. He doesn't interrupt, doesn't seek validation, doesn't chase the rhythm of others. And still, his presence rearranges the air. This is what happens when observation evolves into influence, when the quiet understanding you've cultivated begins to shape the world around you without a single demand for attention. You can feel it in those moments when your calm unsettles people, when your stillness forces them to question their noise. Influence born from silence doesn't need manipulation or persuasion. It's not control, it's clarity. The Stoic who has learned to see deeply begins to understand what drives people, their fears, their hungers, their masks. And because he sees them clearly, he can move around them effortlessly, never fighting their chaos, never sinking into it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it. That rock does not resist the storm, it simply endures it until the storm exhausts itself." This kind of quiet influence is invisible to the untrained. It isn't loud charisma or forced leadership. It's alignment between perception and restraint. The one who truly observes begins to command not because he wants to, but because others instinctively trust his steadiness. In a world of performers, the authentic one becomes the anchor. He doesn't win arguments. He wins minds simply by seeing what others overlook. I remember watching a man like this once. It was during a tense meeting, egos clashing, voices rising. Most were speaking just to be heard, to defend their image, but one man stayed silent. He watched, he studied, and when the room finally tired itself out, he spoke a single sentence: calm, precise, undeniable. The tone shifted instantly. The chaos folded back into order. He hadn't raised his voice. He had waited until truth had space to land. That's the weight of quiet observation. Its power is delayed, but devastatingly accurate. The more you practice this, the less you'll need to prove yourself. People will start revealing their intentions before you even ask. They'll adjust their tone around you, sense your boundaries without you speaking them. They'll begin to measure their words because your silence reflects everything they hide. That is what Stoics called prohairesis, the mastery of your own judgment so thoroughly that external events lose their ability to disturb you. You influence not by pressure, but by presence. Over time, you'll find that you no longer move through rooms as a participant in noise, but as an observer shaping its rhythm. You'll speak only when necessary, and when you do, every word will land like a stone dropped into still water, ripples wide, but calm. People won't understand it at first. Some will mistake your quiet for mystery. Others will feel uneasy around it, but a few, the wise ones, will recognize it for what it is: strength without performance. True influence doesn't require a platform. It requires perception. And once you master the art of seeing clearly, you no longer fight for power. You become the axis it turns around. And from this clarity grows the next evolution, not just the ability to see, but to build silently, to turn vision into motion without ever needing to explain. From here, imagine the quiet worker, the one who shows up every day before dawn when the world is still asleep. His tools are simple, his pace steady. There's no applause waiting for him, no spotlight chasing his steps. Yet, every morning he returns. The sound of his discipline is softer than a whisper, but its echoes will outlast the loudest noise. This is where quiet consistency becomes an unstoppable force. It's the kind of power that doesn't demand to be seen, only to be felt. You can tell a lot about a person not by what they do once, but by what they do again and again. The Stoics knew this. Seneca said, "Character is not made in a moment, but in countless acts of will." True progress doesn't rush. It repeats, quietly, patiently. The one who repeats with intention becomes dangerous, because while others burn out in bursts of motivation, he turns his persistence into a rhythm. And rhythm is harder to break than speed. Now imagine two paths. One belongs to those who chase noise, grand gestures, sudden breakthroughs, overnight fame. The other belongs to the silent few, the ones who grind without witnesses. The noisy rise fast, but fade faster. The quiet rise slowly and never fall. That's where the quiet worker wins. Because he's not performing for the world, he's perfecting for himself. I once met a woman who embodied this perfectly. She ran a small bakery in a forgotten street corner. No signs, no marketing. Every morning she arrived before sunrise, kneaded her dough in silence, and filled the air with the scent of devotion. For years, no one noticed. Then one day, her bread spoke for her. People came from miles away, not because of an ad, but because of the taste of her consistency. When asked about her secret, she smiled and said, "I just kept showing up." That's what mastery sounds like. It doesn't shout. It rises slowly until the world can't ignore it anymore. Consistency builds trust, not just from others, but within yourself. Each quiet repetition tells your mind, "I can depend on me," and that self-trust is the seed of freedom. When you no longer rely on mood, motivation, or praise to move forward, you become unstoppable. The Stoic knows that victory isn't a single act, it's the sum of 1,000 disciplined days. It's easy to be impressive once. It's hard to be reliable forever. That's why the calm, consistent ones eventually outlast the impulsive. The world respects fireworks but depends on the sunrise. And the sunrise is silent, but it always returns. So keep building, keep repeating. Let your progress accumulate like dust on stone, barely visible at first but undeniable over time. Because greatness in its truest form doesn't appear suddenly. It grows quietly, and when it finally arrives, it doesn't need to announce itself. It's already been here, waiting for the world to catch up. At this stage, something profound begins. The silence you've built through effort starts transforming not just your work, but your emotions. At this stage, imagine standing in a crowded street where everyone seems chained to their emotions. One insult, and they erupt. One rejection, and they collapse. One delay, and their peace disappears. It's as if every heart you see is wired to react. To noise, to praise, to criticism, to loss. But then, in the middle of it all, there's one person who doesn't move with the crowd. His calm feels different. He's not suppressing emotion, he's transcending it. He still feels everything, pain, disappointment, anger, but none of it owns him. That is the quiet strength of detachment. You'll know you've reached this point when chaos no longer pulls you, when the things that used to shake you now pass like shadows across water, visible but unable to disturb the surface. The Stoics taught that real freedom begins the moment you stop needing things to be a certain way. Epictetus wrote, We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them. The event is neutral. It's your attachment that creates suffering. The Stoic learns to meet life on its terms, not on his demands. Think of two warriors before battle. One is tense, afraid of losing, obsessed with the outcome. The other sharpens his blade with calm precision. He's prepared, but unattached. Victory doesn't define him. Defeat doesn't destroy him. He fights with a kind of ease that unnerves his enemies, because a man who needs nothing can't be broken. That's what emotional detachment gives you, not numbness, but power. The power to stay steady when life tests your pulse. I once met someone who embodied this. A young entrepreneur who lost everything he built. Investors pulled out. His company collapsed, his name dragged through whispers. Yet when I met him, he wasn't bitter. He wasn't even angry. He said, "It was never mine to lose, only mine to give my best." He didn't say it with pride. He said it with peace. And within a year, he started again. Smarter, calmer, freer. People respected him not for his success, but for his composure in loss. That's what detachment looks like in the real world. It's not indifference, it's resilience. Every time you detach from what you can't control, you reclaim energy. Every time you choose inner calm over reaction, you take back power. The Stoics understood this. The man ruled by emotion is a slave. The man who rules his emotions is free. When someone insults you and you don't respond, you win twice, once by denying them control and once by mastering yourself. When life delays your plans, you use the time to sharpen your mind. When people misunderstand you, you let silence defend you. This isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about caring wisely. You can love without clinging, strive without obsessing, fight without hating. That's the beauty of detachment. It gives you strength without hardness, compassion without fragility, and the deeper you practice it, the lighter you become. You begin to see that every loss is just training, every ending a doorway, every rejection a redirection. The Stoic doesn't chase what he can't keep. He refines what he already owns, his judgment, his effort, his peace. In a world where everyone is owned by what they crave, detachment is rebellion. You stop dancing for approval. You stop fearing silence. You stop chasing what runs from you. And in that stillness, life begins to chase you. So, stay calm when others panic. Stay grounded when others drift. You don't have to win every battle to prove your strength. Sometimes victory is simply not being moved. From this calm, something extraordinary starts to form. The stillness that once protected you begins to radiate outward, shaping your world with quiet authority. Now imagine, after years of quiet work, your life begins to speak for you, not in words, but in the way people look at you when chaos breaks loose. The way they pause, searching for the source of your calm. The way they follow your lead without you asking. That's when you realize something profound. The peace you built inside has turned into silent greatness. You no longer chase impact. You embody it. In a world obsessed with performance, this kind of quiet power confuses people. They expect greatness to be loud, dramatic, constantly visible. But the Stoic knows that true mastery doesn't demand attention, it commands it. It's not about impressing others. It's about living in such alignment that your very presence becomes instruction. You don't tell people how to act, you show them through how you move. You don't persuade them with speeches, you steady them with your example. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Those words are the essence of silent greatness. It's not something you pursue, it's something you become through relentless consistency. Every time you choose virtue over vanity, patience over pride, focus over distraction, you carve another mark into the invisible sculpture of your character. You might think no one notices, but they do. The world always feels the gravity of someone who's grounded. I remember meeting a man like that once. He had no title, no stage, no crowd, but everyone in the room deferred to him without knowing why. There was something in his presence, a calm that couldn't be faked. When he spoke, it wasn't loud, but it was final. When he worked, it wasn't rushed, but it was flawless. He never claimed wisdom, but every action reflected it. Later, I learned about the hardships he'd faced, betrayals, failures, losses that would break most men. Yet he carried none of it as bitterness. He carried it as grace. His life was his philosophy, and his silence was his proof. That's the highest form of power, not to dominate, but to endure with dignity, to stand unbent when others crumble, to keep your values intact even when life gives you every reason to abandon them. The Stoic doesn't measure success in applause or possessions, but in the calm that nothing external can steal. His wealth is self-mastery. His throne is inner peace. His legacy is the invisible impact left on those who crossed his path. The paradox of silent greatness is that it needs no recognition to exist, yet it transforms everything around it. People may not understand you. Some will admire, others will envy, but all will feel it. They'll sense the discipline beneath your stillness, the fire behind your composure, and whether they admit it or not, they'll change in your presence. That's when you've outgrown the need to be seen. You've become something that others can feel, a steady force, a quiet guide. The kind of presence that turns storms into lessons and failures into fuel. So keep building that unseen strength. Let your life whisper what your words no longer need to say, because the day will come when your silence carries more power than the loudest victory. And those who once doubted your calm will find themselves shaped by it. As we reach this point, the circle completes. What began as silence within has now become influence without. In the end, mastery isn't power over people, it's peace within yourself. And when you have that, the world no longer needs to understand you. It adjusts to you. You don't have to raise your voice to prove your strength. True mastery isn't about commanding attention, but about needing less of it. In a world that constantly demands noise, approval, and validation, power belongs to the one who remains calm, disciplined, and self-directed. The Stoics reminded us that the greatest victories happen within, far from the applause of the crowd. Outsmarting others silently is not deception, but alignment. It is choosing clarity over chaos, restraint over reaction, purpose over pride. When you live this way, influence stops being something you chase and becomes something you radiate. You no longer need to prove your worth, because your peace speaks louder than any claim. Let your actions, your consistency, and your calm presence be your voice. Let every quiet step you take toward wisdom leave a mark the world cannot ignore. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to subscribe and continue walking this rare path of silent strength. Leave a comment below with the words "Quiet Power" to let me know you're part of this journey. Stay patient, stay steady, and keep building the kind of strength that no storm can shake. The next lesson will take us even deeper,